Hello guys, welcome to this video lecture on electric flux density and Gauss's law. We'll also study about divergence in this video. Okay, let us begin by seeing what electric flux is. So Michael Faraday suggested that the electric field around a given charge can be imagined in terms of lines of force which is spread across around it. Now, what are these lines of forces? These lines of forces are nothing but my electric flux lines. So the definition goes like this: the total number of lines of force in any particular electric field is called as an electric flux. Alright, and it is represented using the letter xi. Now, what are the properties of these flux lines? You know that when I keep an electric charge in space, it produces a field around it, and that field can be visualized using imaginary lines of force. That is what electric flux is. Now, what are the properties of these electric flux lines? So let us say that I have two electric charges, Q1 and Q2. One is a positive charge and the other is a negative charge. So it says, the first property says the flux line, it starts from the positive charge and ends at the negative charge, or the flux lines emanate from positive charge and terminate at the negative charge. What if I don't have a negative charge? Then the flux line which is being produced from the positive charge ends at infinity. So you have to know that. Let us say that there is no negative charge here, and the flux lines here will end at infinity. Okay, and what if what if the electric field is strong? If I say an electric field is strong, instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flux lines, you will have, say, 10 flux lines. So you will have more of such lines. Okay, so that will be your second property. Now, if the flux lines never cross each other, as you can see here, the flux lines never cross each other. They are always apart from each other, and they never cross each other. And then the flux lines are independent of the medium in which they are located. So it doesn't matter in what medium it is located, they still behave the same. Okay, and you should note that electric flux is a scalar quantity, and in the next part of this video you will see what is electric flux density, and you will realize that electric flux density is a vector quantity. You have to remember this: electric flux is a scalar quantity, whereas electric flux density is a vector quantity. Okay, now let us see what is electric flux density. So I want you to consider two charges here again. One is a positive charge and another is a negative charge, and the flux lines emanate from positive charge and they terminate at negative charge. Once we have considered that electric field, these are electric flux lines. Now, if I place a unit surface area inside the electric field, or in a way that it cuts the flux lines, then the flux lines which are passing normally through the surface which I have considered is called as electric flux density. That is what the definition says. The net flux passing normally through the unit surface area under consideration is called as electric flux density. That is what it says. Okay. Now, how do I write that mathematically? And you have to observe that when I say something is passing through the considered surface area normally, you know that there is direction coming into picture. Okay, that is why it not just has a magnitude, it also has a direction, because we specify the direction as normal to a particular surface. It means it is a vector quantity. That is why we say electric flux density is a vector quantity. How do we represent this mathematically? So electric flux density is denoted by the letter D. Okay, and mathematically it is written as the total flux divided by total surface area. The total flux, okay, is represented by the letter xi, and the total surface area is represented by the letter S. And the unit for electric flux density is Coulomb per meter square. Okay, you should remember this very well. Electric flux density is a vector quantity, and it is given by D is equal to the total flux xi divided by the total surface area which you have considered, and the unit is Coulomb per meter square. Alright, now we'll see what is the vector form of this electric flux density. The definition, we just saw it. It was D is equal to xi by S. Now what is the vector form of the same equation? So in order to do that, let us say that I have the electric field lines or the flux lines emanating out like this, and I consider some differential surface area ds. Okay, so here you know, or you can see that there are flux lines passing through this differential surface area. And how? These are passing normally through the differential surface area which I have considered. That is what I said in the previous definition of electric flux density. Now I will represent the differential surface as ds and the flux density as d, and the differential flux, which is the flux lines passing through it, is given as d. Okay, and an is the unit vector which is representing the direction which is normal to your differential surface. And you know that the equation was xi divided by surface area s. Instead of xi, the total charge, okay, I have differential charge. Okay, I'll consider differential charge, which is nothing but dxi by ds, because I've considered a differential surface, and of course I have the unit vector an cap. An cap indicates it is normal, the direction is normal to the surface I have considered. We shall now see what is the relation between D and E. You know, D is electric flux density and E is electric field intensity. Now we have to derive an equation which will relate these two quantities. Okay, so in order to do that, we'll start off by considering the equation for E. So we know that the electric field intensity E at some distance r is given by E is equal to Q divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r square into AR cap. AR cap indicates the direction of my electric field. Okay, similarly I know what is D. I will consider the vector form when I am talking about electric flux density. So you know that D is given by dxi by ds an cap. Now how do I derive an equation which relates both of these? Let us look at this figure here, figure A. So I will consider a sphere, okay, around a charge, around a positive charge which is placed at the center of the sphere, and you know that the flux lines are coming out radially. Okay, and the distance, or I mean the radius of the sphere is r, and then I will consider a small differential area, and out of this the electric flux density is d, and then the unit vector is an. And when I say an, I am saying that it is coming out normally, so that is also nothing but the electric flux lines coming out radially. That is why I have represented it as AR cap. Okay, and I'll be using AR cap here as well, so that is how I relate. Since the flux lines are normally coming out to the surface, I will represent it with an cap, and I can also write this as AR cap because the flux lines which emanate are always radial. You have learned that from a single point charge. Now look at this. For a point charge, I know that electric flux density is d. I mean I've taken the magnitude of it. I'm not considering the direction for the time being here. So the electric flux density d is given by total flux divided by total surface area. I know the total flux is xi and the total surface area is s. And you have to remember that the total flux lines is actually nothing but the charge enclosed. Okay, so that is why I have written q, which is nothing but the charge which is enclosed in this sphere. So instead of xi, instead of the total flux, I have simply represented using the charge q, which is actually placed inside it. And the surface of the sphere is given as 4 pi r square. You know that. Now I have this equation d is equal to q divided by 4 pi r square. Now I have considered the direction as well. It is radially outward. It is AR cap, and the unit is coulomb per meter square. And this equation I have called it as equation 1, and I have called this as equation 2. Now I will divide equation 2 by equation 1. So what I will get is vector d divided by vector e. So when I divide vector d divided by vector e, I will end up with this equation: d is equal to epsilon naught times e. So that is how I relate electric flux density d and electric field intensity e. In fact, when it comes to your exam point of view, this is a very, very important question. Okay, and we will be using this equation quite a lot of times. Okay. Please remember this. Okay, now we'll see what will be the electric flux density for various charge distributions. Okay, well, let us see what will be the charge distribution for a line charge. So if I have a line charge, I will represent the line charge Q as line integral L rho L dl. You know this, you've used several times in the previous section as well. So I know the equation for D, which is D is equal to Q by 4 pi r square into AR cap. Instead of Q, I will substitute line integral rho L into dl divided by 4 pi r square AR cap. Now I know that this line charge is infinitely long. So E for this case is given by, you know this, E is equal to rho L divided by 2 pi epsilon naught r into AR cap, and I also know that D is equal to epsilon naught times E. So using all these equations, I can simply write the electric flux density for a line charge distribution as D is equal to rho L divided by 2 pi r. Okay. Similarly, you can do that for surface charge as well. You can please go through, it is there in the study material which I have posted. It is not that difficult at all. So for a surface charge, it will be, the electric flux density will be D is equal to rho S divided by 2 AN cap. Okay. Similarly, it goes for the volume charge. Now we shall see what Gauss's law is. In fact, this is a very, very important law for physicists and electrical engineers and electronics engineers. This is actually one of the fundamental equations of Maxwell. Maxwell has 4 equations. You will be studying it, and one of that equation is Gauss's law. Okay, and then scientists like Richard Feynman also worked on quantum electrodynamics, and all of which has been evolved from Gauss's law and many other laws which was given way back in the early 1800s and 1900s. So this Gauss's law is also very important for your exam, be it the theory question that might appear or a numerical problem which would also appear in your exam. Now let us see what Gauss's law says. So Gauss's law states that the total electric flux Xi through any closed surface is equal to the total charge enclosed by that surface. That is what we used in the previous case. You remember I wrote Q instead of Xi. Instead of Xi, I substituted Q. Okay. How do I write that? Using Gauss's law. Gauss's law simply states that the total electric flux Xi through any closed surface, okay, is same as the total charge which is inside that surface. And you have to see, and you have to remember one more thing. You have to remember what is a Gaussian surface is. Okay, a Gaussian surface is something which is closed. There are no open spaces in a Gaussian surface. Okay, so you have to remember that a Gaussian surface can never be open. It will always be a closed surface. You will find people referring it to as Gaussian surface or sometimes simply closed surface. Closed surfaces are Gaussian surface. Please remember that. Now from the definition, I may write electric flux Xi is equal to the charge enclosed in the closed surface or the Gaussian surface I have considered. So this is my Gaussian surface. You can see it has a surface, okay, and inside of which I have placed some charge Q, okay, and I will take a small differential surface out of it. The electric flux density here would be D, and then the direction will be normal to the surface which I have considered. So mathematically I can write Xi as, I will consider a surface integral because I'm talking about a closed surface integral. So that is why I have a closed surface integral, and it is same as the differential charge, the differential flux which is coming out of this. So I will represent it with d Xi. Okay, and I know that d is equal to d Xi by ds. Okay, I have substituted it here. Okay, so finally what I will get for Xi is closed surface integral d dot ds. You have to remember this, and this is called as the integral form of Gauss's law. This is very important. You may find Gauss's law in different ways. In different, it is expressed in terms of E as well. Here we are expressing it in terms of D. You will also find several YouTube videos where people explain Gauss's law using electric field intensity E. So that can also be done, but as per your prescribed textbook, we have to go forward with this approach. Okay, so please remember that the charge enclosed in a given Gaussian surface or closed surface xi is equal to the closed surface integral d dot ds. This is very, very important. Now we shall see what is Gauss's law in differential form. Okay, whatever we derived in the previous case was Gauss's law in integral form. Now we'll see what will be Gauss's law in differential form. So in order to do that, I will consider the equation 1. Here I have considered the same equation which is above, the integral form of Gauss's law. I've considered the integral form of Gauss's law, which says that xi, the flux lines, the total flux, is equal to the charge enclosed, which is equal to closed surface integral d dot ds. I've considered this equation. I've named that as equation 1. Now let me consider a closed surface S, which is here the closed surface which is written in black, and then inside of which I have some volume V. Okay, and the charge density of this volume is given as rho V. Okay, and then the net charge enclosed by the surface S. So the net charge enclosed by this entire surface S, which has a volume charge inside, the charge enclosed by this surface S is given by Q enclosed is equal to volume integral rho V times dV. Okay, I will call this as equation 2. Now I'll substitute equation 2 in equation 1, and we'll see what we get. I have substituted that, and what I get is closed surface integral d dot ds is equal to volume integral rho V dV. Now I will apply divergence theorem. I've already told you we have studied divergence theorem in the very first chapter when we spoke about vector analysis and vector calculus. So in simple terms, divergence theorem is used where I need to convert a surface integral into a volume integral. So when I apply divergence theorem, I'll be able to do that. So you can see I will apply divergence theorem to this equation. Okay, when I apply divergence theorem, you can see I will be taking the divergence of d. Okay, and this ds is now converted into a differential volume. Okay, it is in terms of dv. Now you can see if I apply the divergence theorem, I'll be converting a surface integral into a volume integral. That is what divergence theorem does. Please remember that. If you are not clear about this, please go back and see what divergence theorem is. Okay, so I have rewritten this equation after applying divergence theorem, and the equation goes as volume integral del dot d dv, which is same as volume integral rho v dv. I will call this as equation 3. The above equation holds good for any volume. The equation 3 will hold good for any volume, and as the volume tends to 0, you remember the previous concepts again, the volume shrinks. Okay, you remember we apply the limit and we say volume tends to 0. So that is what I am trying to say here. Okay, when the volume tends to 0, then equation 3 can be simply written as del dot d is equal to rho v, because as the volume shrinks, it means as the volume becomes 0, I can simply ignore the volume integral because there is no volume at all, it is being shrinked. So I will simply write it as del dot t, which is equal to rho v. And what does it actually mean? So if I have to write a statement, so Gauss's law in differential form simply states that the divergence of electric flux density at every point in a medium is equal to the charge density. Okay, it is very important, especially when we solve problems. Please remember that the divergence of electric flux density d at any point in a medium is equal to the charge density. Okay, please remember this. And there are some limitations of Gauss's law. We'll see what are those limitations of Gauss's law. So Gauss's law can be applied only to closed surface. Okay, it can be applied only to Gaussian surface or closed surfaces, and it can be applied only if the surface encloses a volume completely. So what he's trying to say is, let us say if I have some surface like this. Okay, this is my surface S, and the volume which I am considering should be enclosed inside this surface completely. See, I cannot have a surface like this and my volume is something like this. No, I cannot have this. Okay, the volume should be completely enclosed inside the surface S, which I have considered. That is what the second limitation say. Now the third limitation is nothing but it is applicable only for symmetric problems or objects. You will see that when we solve problems. So please remember the limitations of Gauss's law. Now let us see the proof of Gauss's law. Okay, you know that Gauss's law says that electric flux phi, electric flux xi is equal to the charge enclosed in a given surface. So that is what Gauss's law says. Let us see if that is true. In order to do that, let me consider a point charge q which is located at the origin. Okay, I have my coordinate system here and I have some charge q which is at the origin. So let us imagine a sphere around this charge q, and let the sphere have a radius r, okay, which is also centered at the origin. Now I will consider a differential surface ds on my sphere, okay, and then the electric flux density d is normal to this surface ds which I have considered, and the direction, I mean when I say normal, I indicate it with a unit vector which is ar cap. Okay, so for few considerations, I mean for few reasons, I will represent r as a. It is the same. Instead of writing radius as r, I will be using it as a. Now from this diagram, and since it is in spherical coordinate system, you should have realized by now, when we talk about a sphere, we will be considering spherical coordinate system, and when we consider a spherical coordinate system, the differential surface ds can be written as ds dot ar. Of course, ar is my unit vector which gives the direction, and you know from vector analysis and vector calculus how to express a differential surface when it comes to a spherical coordinate system. So I will express my differential surface ds as r square sine theta d theta d phi ar. Okay, ar is nothing but my unit vector which gives the direction. So I know that I've said here that I'll substitute a in terms of, I'll substitute a for r, radius r. So I've simply done that here. Instead of r square, I've written it as a square sine theta d phi ar. You know this. Let me not repeat what let me not repeat how differential surface is expressed in terms of in terms of spherical coordinates. Okay, so if you have any doubts, you can go back to vector analysis and have a look at that. I will name this equation for ds as 1, and I will consider the equation for electric flux density d, which is nothing but q divided by 4 pi r square. Okay, and this is for a point charge because I have a point charge here in the origin. So the equation is d is equal to q by 4 pi r square ar cap. Okay, I will replace this r square again by a because I've told this r is nothing but a. I've written it as capital R, so we can simply consider this as lowercase r. So I will replace this with a square. So I have written it here, d is equal to q divided by 4 pi ar square a cap. Now I shall consider the equation xi, which is equal to closed surface integral d dot ds. This is nothing but my Gauss's law. I know this. I know ds. I know what is d. Let us substitute and see what we get. So I have substituted the integrals. Okay, I have two vectors, so I need two integrals. So I have substituted firstly for d. Where is d? D is here. I have substituted that here. Q divided by 4 pi a square ar cap, and of course it is into a square sine theta d phi ar cap, because I know the equation for ds. I have simply substituted that equation here. In this equation I have substituted the value for d and ds, and this is what I get. And you know the limits for phi. Where is phi? Phi is here. Phi will have one complete rotation, which means one 360 degree rotation. So the limits are from 0 to 2 pi. And theta, where is theta? Theta is here. Theta is moving like this. It will have a maximum value of 180 degrees. So I will represent the limits as theta is equal to 0 to pi. If you simply integrate this and evaluate the limits, you will be able to arrive at the final answer. Right, we have xi is equal to this integral, and I have simplified it because you know ar cap dot ar cap is nothing but 1. So I have done that here, I have substituted it here. Now let us integrate and evaluate the limits. So q by 4 pi is a constant, I will take it out. So I will be left with the integrals of theta and phi and sin phi, I mean sin theta, d theta, d phi. So I will split the integrals. I will keep this as a constant q by 4 pi and integral sin theta d theta and into the integral d phi. So you know the limits. This is for theta is equal to 0 to pi, and this is from phi is equal to 0 to 2 pi. So if I integrate sin theta with respect to theta, I will be getting minus cos theta, and the limits are 0 to pi. And if I integrate 1, I will get phi, of course. I mean I will be integrating 1 into d phi, so that is I am integrating that. So the limits here are 0 to 2 pi, and of course you have q by 4 pi, and you know that limit how to evaluate the limit. It is upper limit minus lower limit. When you do that, you will finally end up with q. So on the left hand side, you know we have xi, which is equal to q. So that is what Gauss's law says. It simply says that the electric flux phi is nothing but the charge enclosed in the surface which you have considered in the Gaussian surface. So hence we have proved that Gauss's law is true, because finally we arrived at this. On the left hand side we have xi, on the right hand side we got q after doing this derivation. So which means Gauss's law is true. And when it comes to exam, again this is a very important question. You may be asked this question this time in the exam, because they've asked the same question almost every semester. So please go through this. If you have any doubts, please get back to me. This is very, very important. Let me quickly tell you what divergence is. So I've told you, I've given the study material before. We have done this in the regular classes as well. So I'll just tell you what divergence of D is. Okay, so we define divergence of D at a particular point as the outward flux of D per unit volume as the volume tends to 0. We've made use of this several times before. You know what divergence is. So I'll be representing the divergence of D as del dot D, which is equal to limit of my closed surface integral D dot ds divided by delta V as the volume tends to 0. That is what we did, delta V as delta V tends to 0. This is my divergence of D. Now please remember this. Okay, and then you might be asked to derive the equation for to derive Maxwell's first equation. Don't worry, Maxwell's first equation is nothing but your Gauss's law in differential form. We derived this, right? Gauss's law in differential form simply states that del dot D, or the divergence of D, is nothing but the volume charge density. So you simply have to derive this. Please go through it. Is a very simple derivation. It's not much of a problem. So I'll be using this definition, and then I'll be simply substituting. Finally, I compare the equations. I will get del dot D is equal to rho V. You should be able to go through this. Please go through this. If you have any doubts, you can always get back to me. Okay, now we shall see some problems on Gauss's law.